Okay, let's start. So finally, I'm happy to share this with you. This is the session 1 of SquiggleDAO Curated Traits. This has been a research effort for more than a year, and we are super excited to share it with all of you. Okay, first, let me talk a little bit briefly about the DAO. The DAO has two main goals, is to collect and to promote the Chromie Squiggle. And within the collect goal, we like to break it down as building the biggest and the best collection. So we are talking about quantity and quality. So we are not looking to add more and more pieces to the collection, but also pieces that make the collection more interesting and that are adding prestige and have a story to tell. And a little bit about me, I've been working more than a year on this. I started doing this research by myself around September 2021, so it's been a while. And I started finding some interesting pieces, October, November, and I tried to buy some, of course, managed to get one, but I thought that I was already involved in the DAO and I thought that it would be more interesting to do this research within the DAO as a bigger project, that all saying that if you want to go far, go together. So that's why I presented the idea to one of the founders. They liked it, and that's what got me the position as acquisitions lead and allowed me to do this full-time since early 2022. Now I'm leading acquisitions and research, NFT DeFi and finance for SquiggleDAO. We cannot keep going without giving credit to Bob Mises. He was the spark for the work that we are presenting today. And in particular, these 3 weeks that he shared in September 2021, where he explains how he defined the perfect and full spectrums. And to do that, he's using 3 stats from the metadata. It's small, but I'm going to cover everything, so don't worry. So he's using 3 stats from the metadata. Those are visible on the Rblocks website, OpenSea, SquiggleDAO.com, and he's using segments, steps between segments, and the color spread. With those 3 inputs, he's building the formula to find out the number of color hues in any squiggle. So it's segments times steps divided by the color spread. That's going to give you the number of color hues in any squiggle after the starting color. So we need to add 1 to the result of the formula. And then he said, if a squiggle has exactly 256 color hues, probably most of you already know this, that's displaying, a squiggle is displaying exactly each of the 256 colors, possible colors, exactly once. That's a perfect spectrum. And a squiggle that is within 1% of perfect, within 1% of 256 hues, that's a full spectrum. And let me stop for a second in the formula, because this formula has 2 of the main characteristics that define a squiggle. And those are the segments and the color spread. Segments go from 12 to 20, and that's the length of a squiggle. So those with 12 segments are shorter, and in my opinion, they look really clean. And squiggles with 20 segments are the longest possible squiggles, and they look much more complex and interesting. Regarding color hues, how is segments going to affect color hues? By common sense, the longer the squiggle or the more segments, the more color hues it will display, the more color hues will fit. And if you're going to go mathematically, segments is in the numerator, so the higher the segments, the higher the color hue count, the higher the result of the formula. So that's segments. For color spread, goes from 5 to 50, and that's the distance between colors. So the shorter the distance between colors, the smaller the color spread, the more rapidly those colors are going to change. So for a very colorful squiggle, we want a low color spread, low distance between colors. And again, mathematically, color spread is in the denominator, so the lower the color spread, the higher the result of the formula. Let's cover steps just to cover the 3 inputs of the formula. And steps are type dependent. So slinkies and pipes always have 50 steps, normal drips and balls have 200, and fuzzies have 1000. By looking at the formula, we will know that fuzzies are going to tend to be always more colorful due to that 1000 steps. Slinkies and pipes more monochromatic due to the 50 steps in the numerator. Of course, there is going to be a range depending on the segments and the color spread of the particular squiggle. but slinkies and pipes are going to be on the more monochromatic side of the spectrum, and fuzzies on the more colorful side. So let's imagine someone looking for the most monochromatic squiggle. That's going to be slinky or a pipe, probably, or we know for sure that it's going to be a short slinky or a pipe with a very high color spread. If we are looking for the most colorful squiggle possible, that's going to be a fuzzy or a hyper fuzzy. Because of the 1,000 steps in the numerator, a long fuzzy. Now, and we are getting into the meat of the presentation. Before explaining what we did, we wanted to make sure that our formulas and the raw data worked. So we are not going to bore you with spreadsheets, but just wanted to show you that we downloaded all the metadata into a spreadsheet. This has 9,734 rows, one for each squiggle that has been minted already. And we have a lot of columns to the right because we tried a lot of different combinations. But before going deeper, what we said is, how do we make sure that the raw data and our interpretations of the formulas work? Because there are some nuances once you start working with the raw data from scratch. So the test we did was, can we identify, using the data and the formulas, the 22 perfects and the 42 fulls that already exist? And yes, using our formulas and our data, we exactly identify those 22 and 42. So all the work that we are building on this, it's based on something that is working and it's solid. And now this is the part that we are sharing today. That was a little bit of intro. And we are calling this session the spectrum pyramid, and you will understand why in a second. But first, a reminder that the squiggles can differentiate themselves by type and by spectrum. So there are two rarity paths. There are 6 types. By type, there are 6 different types. Those are normal, slinky, fuzzy, rip, bolt, and pipe. And by spectrums, there are 4. There are normal, there are hyper spectrums, there are full, and there are perfect spectrums. And today, we are introducing new spectrums. So everyone knows that there are squiggles that are more colorful than perfect. That's pretty obvious to the naked eye. So we said, wouldn't it be cool to have 2 perfects together, a double perfect, like 2 perfects in the same squiggle, like completing 2 of the 256 colors, so showing those colors exactly twice. That would be 512 color hues. Unfortunately, there are no double perfects. There is no squiggle with exactly 512. Then we said, what about a double full spectrum? That would be a squiggle within 1% of a double perfect. And we found 17. And still, there are squiggles that are more colorful than this. So what about a triple? And that would be having 3 perfect spectrums in the same squiggle. That's 256 times 3, that's 768 color hues. And again, we found no triple perfects, but we checked for triple fulls, those within 1% of a triple perfect, and we found 8. And to be clear, we are calling them doubles and triples, but they are double and triple full spectrums. In fact, what we've checked as well is that there is double and triple perfects are mathematically impossible. There is no combination of segments, steps between segments, and color spread that will result in a double or a triple perfect. So that's why we think that there is no need for the naming differentiation, and we are calling them just doubles or triples. Now, we said, what about a rainbow? This would not be a hyper rainbow, that's a hyper. This would be just a rainbow. That's a normal squiggle with the maximum number of color hues. And by going back to the formula, we know it will have 200 steps, that's fixed, 20 segments, because that's the longest possible squiggle, and a color spread of 5, which is the lowest possible color spread for maximum number of color hues. And if you want to do the math, that's 20 segments times 200, 4,000, divided by 5, 800, after the starting color, so we need to add 1, so it would be a squiggle with 801 color hues. Do any rainbows exist? And the answer is yes, there are 2. Something interesting that we found is that these 2 rainbows plus the 8 triples are the top 10 most colorful normal squiggles. So if we sort all squiggles from most colorful to least colorful, just excluding hypers and fuzzies, the 2 rainbows will appear on top, and the 8 triples will be following those 2 rainbows, forming the top 10 most colorful. And note that, as happens with perfects and fulls, these are more than normals. These are squiggles with 200 steps. That's normal, rips, and bolts. So, for example, in the doubles, there are some bolts and some rips that are doubles within the 17 doubles. And in the triples, there is 1 ripped that is a triple spectrum, and it's not a normal, it's a ripped. There are no bolts. Now, one question came up within the DAO. What do we do with this research as a DAO? In our opinion, closing the circle was not only studying the data and releasing the information, was also acting on it. So ideally, if we could buy some pieces around near floor prices, that would be great. That would benefit greatly the whole DAO and all of its members. So and also that would go towards that goal that we set at the beginning of building the best collection, so the most interesting collection. So that's like a really interesting thing to do, and that's what we did. For months, we were doing OTC negotiations. We were reaching out to almost all the owners privately. We were putting bids. We even built a tool with the help of Arcadeus, our developer, and that we'll speak in a second. So we were tracking these squiggles. So every time there was a listing, a transfer, a sale, anything on these pieces, we were getting notified in real time. And after months hunting them, we managed to get 5 pieces. So we got 4 out of the 17 doubles, 1 out of the 8 triples, and although we know both of the rainbow owners, we couldn't get a rainbow. Okay, for these 5 pieces, we paid an average of 15 ETH, which is around current floor today. And we would like to highlight one particular purchase, that's the triple we have, that's number 71. So this triple is really special, or we think it's really special because it's a double digit. Those are also valuable because the floor on those is 69 ETH, last time I checked. And last sale, if I recall correctly, was 30 ETH. So just the double digits are pretty valuable. This is also the first triple spectrum ever minted. And of course, as we said, one of the top 10 most colorful normal squiggles. We just paid 9.9 ETH for this one. Okay, let's talk a little bit about rarity, and we are closing with this slide. So, and as you can see, this is why we are calling this session the spectrum pyramid. As everyone knows, there are 9,734 squiggles minted, so we just have 266 to go. And out of those, around 9,500 are normals by spectrum. There are 127 hypers. That's including standard and non-standard hypers. So hypers linkies, hyper fuzzies, hyper rips. There are 42 fulls, 22 perfects. And today, we are adding the 17 doubles, the 8 triples, and the 2 rainbows. And by spectrum, they form a perfect pyramid. And we don't like to focus too much on price, but just to give you an idea, overall floor, I think there is one more listing below this, but last time I was updating the data was 16. Hyper floor was 199, or is 199 if the listings haven't changed. And we see hypers trade when they get close to 100, 120 ETH. Last sale happened recently at 134 ETH. That was 8 times the overall floor at the time. So let's say the fair value range for a hyper could be around 7 to 10 times the overall floor. Then one step or one row higher, fulls are very liquid, so it's getting more difficult to say a range. Last sale was in November for 130 ETH, and previous sale to that one was 8 months ago. So take this with a grain of salt, but we would say that a fair value range for fulls might be similar to hypers or a little bit higher. Perfects, these are ultra rare none have sold recently. Last sale was September 2021, so really difficult to say a range. Current floor and last sale are around 50 times the overall floor right now, but who knows? And double, triples, and rainbows are even more rare than perfects. So these are pretty special. And they are beautiful. Okay, that's it from me. I'm gonna pass it to SquiggleDAO so he can present the new section that we've built on our website with all that is including all this data and the amazing job he has done building it. And then we'll open it up for Q&A. Thank you so much.
Okay, guys, can you see my screen? So I think you have to click on the new one that will have popped up. So, as part of this exercise, we didn't just want to do the great research that Nifty has obviously been doing over the last year. We wanted to make this as accessible to everybody as possible so that you can really see these new traits in their full glory. One extra thing that Nifty didn't mention is it's not just these three. There are actually quite a few more of these that will be released shortly, and we have a little countdown on the main page here. So we've added to the SquiggleDAO.com website. You can click on Curated Traits. It's in the Squiggle drop-down. And at the moment, we have the three that we've been through so far, and there are some more coming. So we thought about how do we make these traits really visible to people so that you can explore not only just what they are, but you can really see them in the context of the other squiggle traits. And we looked at what are other projects doing around this to make traits really visible and highlighted. And I think probably one of the best examples in the NFT world is what Lava Labs have done with the CryptoPunks. So what we've created is something very similar to that, and you can get to it via the Trait Explorer here, and there's also a link at the bottom of this page. So we have created a squiggle version of the Lava Labs Trait Explorer. You can go through each individual trait that a squiggle has and really see some extra data around that, the examples of these squiggles highlighted against other traits, and really kind of get a view with what's happening. So the new traits are visible under spectrums, and we will keep adding more, and more will appear at the bottom here. But you can use this to explore the individual traits within squiggles and find out more information about them. So on this main page, we have a high-level summary, and you can see really interesting things such as the fact that although we have more fuzzies than we have ribbed, actually fuzzies command quite a premium. So fuzzies are 1.2x the floor price at the moment, but ribbed are not, meaning that perhaps ribs are undervalued. You can also see things like the fact that the floor for pipes is 68 at the moment, but the last sale was 46.88. So maybe if you make an offer on a pipe, you might be able to attract a value slightly below that. Now, it's not just the grid. If you drill into each individual one, you can click on any of the traits and it takes you to an individual page talking about these squiggles. It explains what the trait is, the defining attributes, whether or not there are any that have been sold or on the floor, how many wallets hold them, how many of them there are, and then you can also browse through examples of these squiggles too. So we can see here for the new double spectrum, there are actually quite a few different types of double. So you've got the standard ones, which are pretty iconic, where you can see all the different shades, but they also come in ribbed format, there are bolds, and then you can see examples of recent sales as well and how much they went for. Now, if you click on a squiggle, it will take you through to the OpenSea page, so that if you can see one that is on sale, I mean, these are pretty rare, so they're not, but you can actually go and buy them as well. So we'll be optimizing this page over the next few months, making it a bit faster, perhaps adding some extra information on, really kind of building it out, adding the extra traits. And I would encourage you to return to the main page in a couple of weeks' time, where the next reveal will take place. And hopefully you'll find some exciting new traits. And you know what? Maybe you might have some in your wallet. SquiggleDAO.com. click on the squiggle, and the new items are here. So I encourage you to have a look and find out whether or not you hold any of these new traits.